If you're looking for the next best thing to invest in, try investing in your long-term health with Forward. Forward is intelligent medicine with a personal touch. Their doctors are dedicated to catching top killers like cancer and heart disease early, which could save you tens of thousands of dollars in the long run. So invest in a doctor that's invested in you. Visit GoForward.com to learn more about how Forward can help you manage your long-term health risks for one flat monthly fee. That's GoForward.com.
Hello, this is Let's Talk About Myths, baby, and I am your host, Liv, here with a very special bonus episode. Now, this episode is coming to you on a Saturday because, frankly, I just have so much content for this month, specifically because today's episode is a conversation between me and the illustrator of my upcoming book, Sara Richard. The illustrations in this book are some of the most incredible and beautiful things in the world, and Sara and I, turns out, just get along super well. So I was really excited to talk to her about this. We're both really excited for the book. We're really proud of the book. A lot of you have actually received it early, so you are able to see the illustrations that we are talking about. And if not, I'm sure it is en route, and it officially comes out on March 30th. So we're getting there. Now, a quick disclaimer about this episode. Like I said, Sara and I got along really well. That meant that our conversations jumped around a lot. It was a little tough to edit, so you might notice some funny bits here and there. I did my best to make it something that is wonderful and coherent and interesting for you all to listen to, but just know any weirdness is simply because we just got to chatting about kind of whatever we wanted at any given time. But overall, it was really fun. I got a bit of a backstage look into how she created these illustrations, what she researched, what kind of inspired her, and I absolutely love talking to her. I cannot wait for you all to see this book and enjoy. This is the bonus conversation with Sara Richard, illustrator for Greek Mythology, the Gods, Goddesses, and Heroes Handbook. I am here today with Sara Richard, who has illustrated the incredible book that we've both been working on, and I think we're both just so excited. We had to talk about it, but also I'm so excited by the illustrations that I specifically wanted to talk to you about them. So thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. This is so much fun. So excited to finally meet you in person, kind of.
I know, it's well, and it's a funny thing, and like a little backstory on this. This book is sort of different. Like the publisher wanted to have a book of Greek mythology published, and then so they came to me to write it, and then came to Sara to illustrate it. And there was not ever a point where like we were actually introduced. It was just sort of when I started to promote it, which was very early, I recognize. I ended up tagging you, and then now we've just been chatting. So it was sort of all on our own accord, and I love it. It's very nice to have like another person in this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when they told me like they're like, oh, the author is really liking everything, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is all working out great.
Honestly, I can't tell you like so. I mean, this was a weird experience anyway. I've always wanted to write a book, but having them come to me was interesting because it was very structured. They were like, we need, this many entries. Can you come up with a list and like whittle down who is important enough to like be in this book? And then on top of that, we need all the, main entries to be exactly between 650 and 750 words. And then the sub entries to be between like 500 and 600 or something like that. So it was so structured. And the thing about Greek mythology, and you might have like come across this while you were researching, is that it's not structured. No. Because it was just like random stories they told out loud thousands of years ago. So the idea that it was like, okay, you have to write 600 words on this one character. And I'd be like, okay, so they're important, but here's the thing, there aren't 600 words.
Right.
So it was really interesting and then kind of a bit daunting for me to be like, okay, sort of what are they going to do with this now that I've written it? And when they first showed me your illustrations, I think the first one of the first, I think 2 or 3 I saw was Io with with Argus Panoptes.
Argus, yeah.
And I nearly lost my mind.
Oh, good. That's one of my favorite ones, so that's awesome.
That one's so unique, and I don't want to give too much away because obviously we want people to buy the book and see the illustrations, but I do want to talk about which ones are in there because I think that's really going to pique everybody's interest anyway.
Absolutely.
But your illustrations are so stylized in a way that I just think suits the story so perfectly.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to have them in the book. So why don't you, how did you kind of go about researching to do these? Did you read the text I'd written, or did you do more research on your own?
Honestly, they gave me a list of who was going to be in the book, and kind of did that research on my own. I've done that before though. I did a tarot card set once, and it's kind of same thing. Just got a list and really had to research everything, find all the really minute symbolism stuff that I could work in there. And then just kind of hope it worked out okay. But yeah, I mean, I've always really liked Greek mythology. I'm not as knowledgeable about everything, but I did learn a lot for sure. But it was really cool to go down these rabbit holes, especially with the whole. I don't know if I want to give it away yet, but
I think giving away names are a great idea because then people are going to want to buy this book to see these illustrations.
Absolutely. I had to re-research the Tantalus one this morning because I had forgotten everybody. I kind of try to poke in there somehow. But yeah, I tried to find as many little bits and pieces of things that I could kind of hide in each illustration and have it still work, I guess. And it was just kind of have fun. Here's what we need. I did a bunch of thumbnails and stuff. So I think, I sent those in, seeing which ones worked best and kind of went from whatever one they picked. So just kind of all worked out in the end, I guess.
I still have, I'm going to keep the emails forever, but I have, because they sent me your sketches of them. So I explicitly remember seeing 2 different sketches for Arachne and being oh my gosh, which one are they going to go with? Because both of these would be super cool. Arachne is definitely one of my favorite ones.
That was one of my favorite ones too. The colors in that one is one of my favorites of the book. So
absolutely, that's the thing too, and that's what I got out of it. As soon as they were sending me illustrations, I was like, oh, they didn't go with someone safe. They didn't pick an illustrator who was going to make it really pretty and simple and expected. It's really stylized and dark and weird and trippy, and I'm obsessed with that. And basically I showed probably more people than I was technically allowed. And I was you have to see these. I'm losing my whole mind. Yeah, so I couldn't have been more excited when they were showing me, and then more and more came in. And
awesome. That means a lot. Thank you.
Honestly, I can't say it enough. To me, it was just so exciting that the book that I was excited about, but a little apprehensive for because it wasn't a thing that was fully my vision, was going to be perfect, basically.
Oh, it does feel very special. We made a special little baby.
We really did, in a way, yeah. And I used to work in publishing, and so I have this kind of mentality over commissioned books, and so I was a little bit concerned, and I just think it's all the concern is gone. It's gonna be so pretty, and it's interesting the pieces that are available to see right now. Since we were talking about this, both of us have posted the images that are available on Amazon, which are Zeus and Athena and Poseidon competing over Athens.
Hades and Persephone. It's one of my favorites too.
That one's so gorgeous. This the duality of it, so pretty and cool. But they're so those ones that are available now, I think, are such a really minor. There's such a taste of what you're gonna get, but then as soon as you get into more the darkness and sort of weird, cool trippiness of, I have poor adjectives right now.
No, man, that's awesome. Yeah, it was cool how many skulls I got to put into things.
Yeah, exactly, right? They are dark in this way that I'm obsessed with. The illustration of Ares and Eris.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites too. They're all so fun.
They first asked me for a list, and I made a list of story-based suggestions. And then they came back to me and they were like, oh, we're thinking more character-based. Like, could you just make a list of characters instead? And I was like, oh, okay, like, that's less fun. I kind of picked the stories that would be the most cool to illustrate. And then I gave them this character list instead. And then, you know, within a few weeks, they came back and they were like, so the illustrator went with your first list of, like, story-based illustrations, and we think they're great. And I was like, oh, that's so much more exciting.
Oh, it was cool because, yeah, some of them were more than just the character. It's like, here's the situation. And that was really cool because, I mean, with some of these characters, there's so much to pick from to illustrate them doing one of their many things that they're known for. So that actually really helped me out a lot, too, to kind of like whittle down exactly what path to go in for some of these.
Well, and I think it gave it so much more complexity. Like, for instance, you didn't just illustrate Artemis. You illustrated Artemis and Actaeon, which is one of the darkest. And, like...
It's so cool. The horror in it. Oh, I love it.
Exactly. Like the fact that they picked you and we got these like horror-esque images is Greek mythology, but it's not the Greek mythology that people usually go for, especially commercially. You know, it's like, it's not Disney's Hercules. So that's your style too. So what else do you illustrate? Let's, you know, also talk about you as an illustrator.
Oh, sure. Yeah. For 7 years, I worked on My Little Pony. So that's where a lot of like the colors and stuff come from. But yeah, I love horror and like dark stuff. I collect like a bunch of Victorian funerary stuff. So I have like just postmortems and pictures of gravestones and mourning jewelry and just all that kind of around me all the time, because I love it so much. But like I kind of grew up on, you know, like 90s Nickelodeon, where they kind of had this sort of at face kid friendly stuff, but underneath like it was way more adult than you were, you know, thinking that you were watching when you were a kid. So that's kind of always like stuck with me too, and I love that. So like I'm always kind of in this battle with some of the stuff I'm working on, where it's like, oh, that's nice, but it's a little too dark for young Todd. And it's like, all right, well, I turned out fine, I think. Kind of, maybe. I don't But yeah, I love kind of putting in that, you know, dark layer hidden under like the Lisa Frank colors on top, I guess. But yeah, I style wise, so for the book, I pushed it a little bit more graphic than what I usually do in terms of like just a graphic comic book colors and stuff like that, because I've been doing a lot more toned down colors like purple grays and like muted colors lately, and they're like, no, we want this like bright Hercules lore color schemes and everything. And it's like, oh sweet, okay, well, My Little Pony color schemes are coming back in, I guess. So but it was really, really fun because, like I said, you know, trying to do some of these darker stories with super chromatic pinks and teals and everything is really a fun exercise just to do as an artist anyway. But yeah, in terms of like kind of the swirls and stuff I put in there, like I love Art Nouveau and Art Deco, and some of my favorite artists, like Tamara de Lempicka. I love her style. She's a very 1920s, very Art Deco portrait artist. She's kind of like the Lady Gaga of the art world at the time. If you ever get a chance to look her up, it's Lady Gaga back in time. She was just very like fashionable and very dramatic, and that's how she painted too. So like I'm very influenced by her stuff as well. And always got a shout out for Margaret McDonald McIntosh. She's another like artist that's been dead forever, but in terms of some stylistic details and stuff, she was a Glaswegian artist, kind of doing Art Deco before Art Deco was a thing. She was a very cool arts and crafts movement artist. So I kind of am inspired by a lot of her little flourishes and details in some of the stuff I do as well. Just art history nerd in that specific genre.
Love it. I love that there's some like My Little Pony in your background too. Like something about that just adds so much. Especially like I know this now only because we have already gotten a couple of really ridiculous trolls online.
My eyes have been opened.
Yeah. Greek mythology is a good time. So I'm glad to know you've experienced in that. Hopefully you don't get too much, but it's
oh no, it's fascinating. I'm just like, this is a whole new but somehow familiar adjacent ball field.
Yeah. I mean, so the thing about this book that I am proud of, but also is going to rustle feathers, for lack of a better term, is that as far as I'm aware, it's got to be one of the first commercial books of mythology that straight up says when the gods assaulted people, which was like all the time. Because traditionally, and you know, and I don't have a lot of like more recently published books of mythology, so I'm sure there are some, but traditionally it's like, oh well, Zeus carried her off, or she was wrapped away, and it's like, well, that word wrapped means something
so close, yeah, it's so far.
Your use of it though is not what you're intending, or not the truth,
right?
So I was very thrilled when nobody flagged me using that word excessively, and then so to have the book, you know, be very honest about those moments, and then also to have your dark and gritty illustrations, like I just think it's something very different in a way that I am thrilled with. So last night, well, when we're recording this, which I don't know when it'll come out, but you know, on January 23rd, someone tweeted about the book cover that they have a strong attraction to a book seemingly illustrated with a brush dipped into a palette of lightning storms and tornadoes.
So cool.
It just think it so describes what these are, and my head immediately goes to Ares and Eris with that one, because I think that's like the most just the way that's described. And I love that somebody said that about like the cover and those initial illustrations, because it's not even like they don't even know yet, you know? It's like Zeus is so toned down comparative to the rest of them, and Athena and Poseidon and everything, like they're beautiful and so cool, but then you get to Ares and Eris and I'm like, well, no, that's that real description. So Ares and Eris specifically, how did you get there? I'm so excited that Eris is in a book. She's very rare, she's very hard to track down, and I'm like, I used her name and I was like, well, let's see if we can get Eris in here. So I'm thrilled you did her. How is that?
It was so cool. I like obviously knew who Ares was, but I didn't know who Eris was. That was one of the ones that kind of slipped by for me.
She's rare. You're not alone there.
Yeah, because I couldn't find hardly anything.
There's nothing.
Yeah, I think there was a few animated things out there, and then there was like the vase illustrations. But yeah, she just seemed like such a badass. So I'm like, well, Meg was a badass. I'm gonna do goth Meg with wings.
Oh my god, I hadn't made that connection, and now it's all I can see. Oh my god, she's goth Meg with wings. I'm so excited.
There's one other likeness I might ruin for you in terms of seeing it.
Oh my god, I'm excited.
Yeah, it's a Letterkenny reference.
Oh my gosh, even better. Canadian in there too.
Oh yeah, no, I love it. Theseus definitely looks like Riley.
Which one's Riley? I've never seen Letterkenny. I'm a bad Canadian.
He's the hockey player with the longer hair.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in the one with the maze. I definitely used him.
I'm excited.
As like such a bro dude. But yeah, like I didn't use too many references, but those were the main two. But yeah, for Eris, it was just really cool to be able to kind of use my very limited Greek mythology knowledge beforehand and kind of, you know, make that connection. But it's cool that they let me get like really kind of spooky with that one too. And that one also, I had to kind of, I made it a little bit too cartoony at first, and they're like, no, darker.
Really?
make it more, you know, a little bit more realistic. So that was cool that they're even still like, you know, keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going.
That thrills me. Like, I love that that's how it all came to be. And I mean, there are so many skulls in that one. I don't want to give too much away. But I mean, God, that one alone, it's so... I love it because it's like, it very much is Greek mythology because, you know, you got the characters right, but it's also... I mean, Greek mythology ultimately has very little in terms of visual representation that we actually know. So there's no reason why it can't be made into this very cool and darkly modern representation, which is what all of these are, but specifically like Ares is very like hardcore.
Yeah. It was really fun too to like find all the different interpretations of Ares too, and see like how many just things to put on them, like different bits of armor. And like I'm honestly garbage at drawing armor, so this took like all brain power to be like, how do you make shoulder armor? Oh god. But like I used to cosplay a whole bunch with my friends, so like in terms of Ares, like I wanted to make it a very kind of like, I could see somebody wearing that, you know, like in terms of her colors and everything. Like black and gold is just one of my favorite, you know, super classy Art Deco nerdy color scheme things I love. So like I wanted to give her some class, you know.
Yeah, she's very classy. And I live for her wings. That's one of my favorite things about her as a character in general. It's just like big black wings.
Hot Topic kid, you know.
Absolutely. So other characters that I'm like deeply obsessed with, well, I love all your illustrations, obviously. But one of the early ones they showed me was Cupid and Psyche.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one of my favorite stories ever. So I so want to talk about that.
Yeah, that was actually the very first illustration I did. So that was my kind of my trial, my test illustration. Because I think I did Cupid and Psyche, and I think I did Demeter too, was another test one, just trying to kind of find the style that they're looking for. Because they gave me some like reference to other styles to like be in the same vein of, but you know, obviously don't copy these. So it was really kind of fun to sort of mishmash and make like a beautiful cake out of all these different ingredients that they want to kind of thrown in there. So with the Psyche and Cupid one too, to me it's like it's the very first one, so I was still kind of trying to figure out little elements that I think the last one I did was the Achilles one. So that one, I feel, to me, because I'm like my own worst critic, looks a little different than the Psyche and Cupid one, just because I had like a whole book of kind of figuring out different brushes, because I used Procreate. It's a digital illustration program, and I would kind of find different brushes throughout each illustration that worked really well for hair or for swirls or for fabrics and stuff. So, but it was really fun to figure out like that bright color palette for this really dark situation.
Yes.
So and trying to like really pump up sort of the light and shadow and just trying to find its own sort of look, I guess, too, was but I was also like terrified the whole time too, because I'm like, I want to work on this so bad and I don't want to fuck it up. So
it sounds like when I wrote the pitch, so I completely get that.
I feel like we were both in the same veins on like either side of this.
Exactly. It was like, okay, what can I do to make this perfect?
Yeah. I don't want to lose this. I don't want to lose this.
And I have the same thing with the sample chapters that I wrote versus the later ones. So one of the sample chapters that I wrote was Hades, and I find his story sounds quite different from the rest of them. It's funny that the way that is, like, I've never experienced that before. This is my first book, so but it's interesting to hear that it happened kind of in the same way with illustrations.
Oh, absolutely. And it's like I've done mostly covers and very, very short interior comic bits before this. And, you know, when it's short or it's just a cover, you're kind of like one and done, or like you kind of maybe sort of evolve in a weird way throughout a 7-page thing. But when you're doing like all these illustrations for this book, or like any other long-term book, you're going to change a little bit. You're going to find what works for you better. And, you know, then you got to decide, it's like, do I go back and tweak everything? Or it's kind of cool to see an internal evolution almost, which if people pick up on that, that's awesome. Sometimes it's just you overthinking things, which is usually the case.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and now that you bring up the Achilles one, that's one of the last ones I saw, so it makes sense it was the last one you did. And then so to cap it off with that one, like, that's a real thrill. And Yeah, I think we'll be like pointlessly vague with that one because everyone loves Achilles. So I think that's going to be a real exciting illustration. A few of them are like so wonderfully sad in like the exact right ways while also just being so beautiful.
I wanted this one to like hurt a little bit.
Yeah, it should. It should. And I think it does. Absolutely.
Hooray for that pain. Oh, God.
Well, and I mean, when it comes to all of them, I mean, for one, I wish that you'd gotten to illustrate like the whole book because this is only, what were there, 25?
Yeah, 25 illustrations. I thought that was, I didn't know there was other ones after, but man, see, they should be like extended cut.
I know. So there's technically 60 entries.
Oh,
so
wow.
There's 60 different characters and only 25 illustrations. But then in hindsight, it's like, well, I want to see your take on so many more of them.
Oh, man.
I mean, truly, like, I couldn't have imagined more perfect illustrations.
Oh, man, thanks.
So I love the way, and I don't want to give too much away, so we'll see, but I love the way you handled the labyrinth.
Oh, thanks.
So, yeah, I mean, without kind of giving too much away, I guess, I don't quite know how to do that, but how did you get the idea to kind of, I don't know, it's so interesting how you're able to kind of include everything in an illustration in that way. You managed to get Theseus, the labyrinth, the Minotaur, string, and Ariadne into an illustration in a way that, you know, it was a very creative way to include kind of all of them.
Thank you. Yeah. I think for that one, I did a couple different thumbnails for it, thumbnail sketches. And yeah, like I said, like I want to put as many little bits and bobs to each story, like as subtle or as overt as I can. And that one was a bit of a challenge too, because like, how do I get her holding the string going through the labyrinth, him holding the string, him being Riley from Letterkenny, like him, and then having her, you know, look different from all the other goddesses that I did too, and color coming into it as well. Like I wanted it to be like a really, you know, it's kind of a horrible love story thing. So
yeah, it's messy.
Yeah, like I wanted that pink in there. So like it's a very pink, very green, yellow. It's because they wanted everything to kind of center around 4 colors, like each illustration to have a set 4 colors. So that one kind of took me a little bit also to figure out what colors to use for it too, because it's like it's a real dark kind of thing that happens afterwards, and you know it's one of those things, you know, some of the most horrible shit is covered in pastels. So, but yeah, it was that one. I was hoping they'd kind of allow me to take some liberties with like the whole string thing. So I'm glad that worked out the way it did. That one's probably the most challenging composition out of all of them. So I'm really glad it came out okay.
Theseus is the character, you know, as my podcast listeners will know, who I hate. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's the literal worst. I mean, I love hate him.
Yeah,
because
he's bad.
He's the worst. He is such a fucking asshole. Like, it's not even funny. Yep. But it is funny because telling his story is wildly entertaining because he's such a shithead.
Right. It's very eye-opening. Like, I remember seeing, like, or I listened to your last interview, and you mentioned Theseus, too. So, like, I had read, you know, like a baseline to get that illustration done, and then I did some deep dive in it, and it's just like, what an asshole.
Exactly. Well, and it depends on who you read too, because the thing was, Theseus was an enormous asshole based on like all of his actions, but he also was like the hero of Athens.
Right.
So there's so much, like, he was beloved as the hero of Athens, but then also if you actually dig down, it was like, no, well, he was like wildly shitty. Like, so it's a fascinating one there.
He's got a good PR person.
Yeah, exactly. Athens, the whole city of Athens, you know, is his PR person.
It's, having a PR cities must be nice.
Yeah, exactly. Like the most powerful city in Greece. Like you're going to get away with a whole lot.
Right.
Yeah. When it came to illustrating them in general, like is there anything that you found particularly fascinating or cool or weird when you were learning? Or like what was your favorite one to illustrate? Like, let's have you just tell me what you think.
Oh man. So I was writing a list too of like what ones and I'm like, I'm gonna keep it to my favorite, and then it turned into 3, and now it's 6, and now it's just like each one of them has their own thing. It's like picking your favorite art kids, I guess. But I definitely the Argus one. Like I think that one in terms of just the style that I kind of try to experiment with drawing him with all his eyes and everything is just I've never drawn anything like that before. Like I do a lot of comic book work. My mind goes immediately to like a really kind of like DC villain covered in eyes kind of thing. So to make it more, you know, book illustration-y and more suggestive and making it more artsy, I guess, was so much fun to get my mind back into that sort of lane. So that one was one of the earlier ones too, and it really helped me kind of figure out more of like compositions I wanted to do and more of the look and keeping things more like in a graphic sort of look. But yeah, I think the Hades and Persephone one's probably like one of my favorites. It's so fun to, you know, like with the whole book, do beauty and death, you know, like I love living within that kind of like something morbid, but finding the beauty within, you know, the darkness and the skulls and all of that, and having Persephone kind of have like a flower cape and it's just like everything kind of came together on that one. So that one's definitely a favorite of mine. I'm really glad they released that one too, because that one was like, oh, I need to show people. The Phaethon one too is also really fun.
Yes.
Yeah, that one was tricky too because there's a lot of horses and legs going on in that one, and it probably took me the longest to do that illustration. And just his expression in it is really, really fun too. Oh shit.
Yeah, he's not having a good time.
No. That one really took me a bit to really figure out and honestly bullshit some horse anatomy. So, oh man, it was so cool. Like trying to get like a set, like something that, you know, you could put into just a collection of prints and it would all work together, you know, was really cool. And just trying to figure out, you know, how do I want to draw hair that is consistent through the whole thing? Or how do I want to draw faces that's consistent? I'm terrible at drawing muscles. Gonna have to get a little bit better at that. Like I grew up on Dragon Ball Z, so I'm used to like 20 packs and everything. And like really slender, like stylized Final Fantasy type, like that's all like from my childhood and stuff. So that all kind of like works its way into my art. Also trying to take these tales that have so much to them and then just finding that one moment that really illustrates the whole thing is also a really fun sort of exercise as well. So yeah, it was cool. It was a lot of I was physically and mentally very tired after this one, but in like the best way. Like it was so cool. Like I was really happy I got to experience this. So
well, and they do fit so well together where they're all so unique, but at the same time like you intended, you know, they all look like they're all the same ultimate style and they all go together.
Right, they're all in the same universe or something.
Exactly, yeah. While also having their own personalities, like, you know, comparing Hercules to Ares is super fun. You know, because they're so different, but then, you know, the actual characters are so different. Right. So it just, you know, suits. And I love that they're also gorgeous and stylized, but also you kind of found some certain personalities in there that I think almost twists them. Like I'm thinking of the Judgment of Paris with three goddesses. And I love that it's like Aphrodite's beautiful, but also you can see why Aphrodite's like gonna win.
Yeah, I specifically tried to push her a little bit to be very, you'll see.
Yeah, exactly. She's very different. I love her. But ultimately, the two that I have to mention, though I also don't want to give too much away because based on my podcast, they're going to be two most anticipated, are Medea and Circe.
Yes. I love drawing a sassy lady, so.
Oh God, she is so sassy in this. She's like so powerful, but also full of sass.
Those other favorite ones too. Yeah, they're definitely on my list.
Yeah. I mean, so many of them got like stories kind of told in the illustrations, and some of them it's just like it both is their story, but also just is their character.
Right.
Like the colors in Circe are so perfect and cool and weird and like purple. Just so purple.
Oh, so much purple.
So much purple in the best way. So. And I mean, they're two of my favorite characters overall. And Medea specifically, I mean, you're Medea. I don't even want to say much. But
that was the color in that one. There's like neon red is not something I use very often, but like I felt like it needed to be in there, and that one's probably top 3 on that one too. I'm really happy how that one came out.
She just looks so righteous. She looks so like truthful, where it's like, I did a fucked up thing, but you know what? I don't care. Like, I know I was all in the end, like I did this for a reason and I was right. And I love it.
Yeah. That one had a few pretty brutal thumbnail sketches. I think I did too. There was definitely some bodies on the ground on one of them. But I'm really happy that this is the one that we went with. Just it's got, I feel like, some of the most, kind of with the Faith on one too, it's like the most energy to it. And I really love giving some like really powerful, energetic images like that. So I'm so happy with it. The Tantalus one especially, that one's got just so much in it, and like a lot of hidden stuff in that one too. But researching that one was, it almost felt like I researched it longer than it took to actually make or draw out, and like I'm really happy for that, because like having, there's a bunch of skulls in there, because
there's a lot of punishment in there.
The story is so heartbreaking. But I have Niobe in there. I really tried to use symbolism with the amount of like stones behind her symbolizing each one of her children, and I really try to get really dramatic with her and her, like the way she's weeping, and Tantalus was just fun too, like trying to make this old dude suffering trying to reach for a fruit was
and he is suffering. Oh my god.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, it was one of those ones where I was researching it and trying to keep everybody straight, and like figuring out how this myth just punished people down a line was really, really cool, and trying to work that all into like one single illustration and having it flow and hopefully make some sort of sense was really fun.
I think your illustration might even go beyond what I was able to put in the actual book content, which I kind of love.
Cool.
They would like send me the illustrations just to make sure that it fit with my content, and I think for that one I was like, it's close enough. I think it has more, and also I think that's great because this myth, there is so much, and like so many weird little curses that you can find, and that maybe I didn't get to including every tiny little curse that's in that family because there's so many.
I just hoped I got it right.
Oh yeah, no, and it's almost like Easter eggs of it, and like the Tantalus one is so obvious and so the like focal point that I think it gets the whole point across, and just how like fucked up that family is.
And it was really fun too, because like, like I said, with each of the illustrations, they're like, we want to set everything to like a 4 color scheme kind of thing, and there's like so much going on in it, so it's like, all right, well, 4 colors, every different variety of that color, I guess, is going in there. Obviously warm colors are gonna pop out over cool colors. How do I mitigate that? Like purple skulls up front, but making that a warm purple instead of a cool purple. And it's just like, that one had a lot of little balances going in it. So I think that one was one of the more challenging, but like really, really rewarding ones too. So I was really happy too to like go down that rabbit hole, because that was one that I didn't know about. Like I knew Tantalus, the base, the base of that one.
There's so much in that one. Yeah, there's just so much, and that's what makes it so fascinating and perfect. I just can't get over, honestly, how perfect your illustrations are for the way that I like to tell the stories and the way that I find to be the most sort of, I don't even know the word I want to use, but I just think it's so fitting for now. And if you're going to learn these stories now, to learn kind of I don't want to say truth, because it's not like one thing's wrong, like right or wrong necessarily, but the sort of more impactful way of learning about them is to learn the dark side of it, because they were super dark, and I think people in pop culture have sort of like made them not dark, like Disney's Hercules being a great example, where I love Disney's Hercules, don't get me wrong, like I completely grew up on it, but Zeus and Hera and their relationship is one of the funniest things about that movie, because it's like, oh, look at the mother doting on little Hercules, and it's like, no. No. Basically, she made his life a living hell for all of it. There's a more interesting aspect of it in the way I've told the stories, and then the way you've illustrated them in a sort of they're beautiful, they're so like visceral, but also dark in the way that they really are dark, especially Ares and Eris.
Oh, yeah.
Like Eris is known for so little, but the number one thing is like raging through the battlefield screaming for blood.
Right,
Like
yeah.
she's dark. There's no way to make her not dark. And so and now all I can see is Meg. I love it so much. But it's also so purposeful because I mean even the content of this book is basically making connections to pop culture too. So it's for people who are new to Greek mythology and who are coming at it from like an introduction of pop culture and kind of how those things link up. So I think it suits to be like, you know, pop culture tells you this, but actually this,
Right.
and here's this very, you know, different representation of it.
Oh, totally. Yeah. When you get like that second layer on something that you think you're familiar with, it's just like, excuse me. And then, then the rabbit holes begin. You have a whole field of rabbit holes by the time you're done. But yeah, I mean, like you're you know, you're an expert writing this. I'm coming at it from, you know, the kind of surface Disney's Hercules kind of new-ish into getting all this too. So, I mean, you know, hopefully that is exactly what you said, like bringing people into kind of an introduction sort of thing. And then you've got like, here's this giant layer cake, everybody.
Because they had such strict guidelines over the length of each piece, like they are all really quite simply told, and so I think it is so helpful to have the illustrations in that way, especially in the way that you have tried to like add all those little tiny details in. Like I'm not going to say what the sort of Easter egg detail is in the Io and Argus piece, but it's my favorite thing. And I just remember spotting it and be like, this is the greatest thing ever. Like,
Awesome.
Right? It's just like all those little details. So I think it just totally suits. Like I tried to fit in all the little fun things into a fairly short amount of space, and then you did the same in the illustrations. And so I think it'll really like, it'll just really comes across sort of
I love when things just link up, you know, man. It's great.
I ranted on and on about this when I was first seeing the illustrations, but to everyone I was like, they just couldn't have picked someone more perfect for it. Like,
man.
It's truly so perfect, I want to cry.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, dude. That's great.
I mean, honestly, thank you. Like, equal amounts of thanks. I couldn't believe it. It's so
excited
perfect.
For it. I can't. Oh, my goodness. Get your eyeballs ready, everybody.
Oh my God, exactly. Well, a peek behind the curtain. Sarah and I have just been sort of rambling on and on about the various different sketches that have been involved, and I'm going to cut out most of it because it wasn't coherent. But there was chatting about a couple of the pieces that were almost and that didn't get to be, or that different versions got to be. So the Prometheus I do love. I love the inclusion of Zeus in it is very fascinating, and I think we'll just kind of leave it to everyone to see what it's like in the finished product. But there was, you know, the alternate versions. Oh, I'm looking at Pandora too. So Pandora was a great one. How did you go about, I mean, what a brilliant way of depicting the story, but also on her alone, you can kind of get the idea that like the world has made it her fault, but it wasn't her fault. What were you thinking kind of when you did that one?
Well, that one, I have to admit, that was the first time I learned it was a jar.
Yeah, that's fair. It's a very niche knowledge that it's a jar, not a box.
That's really important though. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the colors in that one, I think that's the only one that has like this really, it's almost like, I think it's like such a weird, gross Nickelodeon green kind of, but like it just has a feeling of just toxicity. So like to work that in color wise, and then like having all these different sort of things hidden in the swirls around her, like there's just like hidden death's heads, like the skulls with the wings that are really popular, kind of like graveside sort of illustration thing in there. And there's like a shark hidden in there, there's bugs, there's skulls coming like at the viewer, and the skeleton hands and everything. And it's just like I wanted it to be just overwhelming, and I wanted her to look overwhelmed, and just, you know, with the purple, it's purple and green.
Yeah, the toxicity really comes across. Like it's very much like releasing of like the ills and all all the bad. I'm gonna have to go look back and find the shark, though. I have to say, I'm excited.
But yeah, even doing like there's like weird insect creatures with like, I wanted to put eyes in them, like weird human eyes in the bugs, and just like having, you know, things that we recognize as scary, and then also having like extra layer of what the F is going on in here, which is what I would imagine would be in that jar. Yeah, it was really fun to just kind of let my imagination kind of go on that one. And
yeah, I think that's such a good sort of description of so many of these, is just kind of like letting your imagination go. Mm-hmm. And I think because, you know, Greek mythology, you can make it very structured and clean and simple, but I don't really see the fun in that. Right. And I think it had so much more complexity, and shows the complexity that existed in these stories to just kind of make them sort of everything at once.
Right.
Like the Pandora one certainly adds, like, it's everything in there, you know, it's accuracy because it's a jar, but at the same time, you know, there's no point in being so true to literal aspects of it that you lose the actual feelings evoked.
Right. And with it being, you know, a very modern, like the illustrations are very modern looking, and having kind of that modern sort of like fear built into that too, because, you know, like I saw a lot of reference to where it's like traditionally horror things coming out of it. It's like, put some of that in there, definitely like skeletons, ghosts, scary faces, everything. But sharks are scary.
Bugs are gross and scary.
Yeah, I love sharks, they're great, but
so do I. They're my favorite things, but also they're a little scary.
They're a little scary, know? Yeah. I would not like to swim towards one, but but it was really fun to kind of just like, you know, inject it with some of that, you know, modern taste to it. Yeah, exactly,
which is how I like to tell the stories too. Like my whole point with my whole podcast and certainly attempts in this book too are injecting modern life into it, because why not? Like, why only cover the stories from the ancient world? It doesn't, you get so much more out of them by connecting it to the world around you now than sticking in that full ancient world. And so I think that's what sort of made them fit so well. The other one that I realize we have to talk about, but without too much detail, is Medusa, because Medusa is like my life source in a character.
Yeah, that was another really early one too. And that preliminary sketch that I did, I always really wanted a really cool silhouette for Medusa. Like I wanted a very dramatic, almost like statue silhouette, and I wanted the whole thing to look like a classic Greek statue, you know, like with the interaction between the two. And then some of her eyes kind of reflecting in the shield is, there's just so much to it. And like the colors, like having a bright orange, almost neon red with teal, it's just, I wanted this one to be really dramatic, really over the top, kind of ridiculous, but lots of silhouettes and shadow, and just like a really strong kind of like female overbearing presence.
What I love about it too is that it looks like she's in the midst of transforming into this monstrosity. Like, to me, it suggests that she became this to defend herself against Perseus versus is always like this, which is also me projecting, because that's my stance on the story is, and I've done some like really heavy research very recently about all the different versions of Medusa over time. And essentially the idea that she's like always this horrifying monster is not really in the original Greek stories. So there's like all these different stories that describe her, but none of them describe her succinctly, and very rarely is she described as like a monster all the time, or even like a monster in general. And so this idea that she's like this hateful monster, I think, kind of comes later, and it is important, but I think the way this shows it just kind of seems to me like she's doing this to him specifically, that this isn't like her natural form.
I wanted like a different look to her. Like I you know, you see all the Medusa reference out there right now. It's like I really wanted to do something a little bit different, but if you like push a lady, you know, she's gonna come at you.
Yeah, exactly. She's gonna she's gonna turn on you, and it's gonna look a little scary, and that's exactly what I get from it. Is that like it's kind of more of a defense mechanism, like screaming at the guy, like, versus like her natural form.
I've had a few situations like I feel like I'm pretty chill, but you push me a little bit too hard, I'm gonna make a snake face at you.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I think a perfect character to wrap this up. But I just want to, I mean, I've said this enough, but like really, I'm so obsessed with these illustrations, and I just can't wait to see them And so, I mean, thank you for talking to me about them. I'm so excited to hear how you went about
This has
it.
been great. Thank you so much. This has been awesome.
I'm so glad. I mean, it's just, the whole thing's such a thrill. I'm so excited to see this book.
I think it's going to be amazing. I think there's going to be a lot of people that connect with it for sure, especially with like the real kind of cold hard truth about, you know, about some of these things too, which is very eye-opening. You know, I learned quite a bit.
I'm so glad.
You know, it's going to give some people who are really into this, you know, just that leg up, I think, and it'll really, really help, you know, conversations going forward on Greek mythology. So I think it's gonna be awesome. I think it's gonna connect with a lot of people for sure.
No, I agree. I think it's gonna be just a very, very cool thing to have out in the world. A very commercial yet very important and like visceral adaptation of Greek mythology, which I think is so like what the world needs. It's great. And also badass women in it. So many badass women in it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Written and illustrated by women. It's overall, I think, just really, really exciting. So thank you. I mean, thank you for being the illustrator, but also thank you for talking to me today. It's been so exciting.
Thank you so much. This is awesome.
Nerds, thank you all so much for listening. Man, as we get closer and closer to the book, I'm getting more and more excited, and it's just a very crazy experience. I cannot wait for you all to see it. Thank you all so very much for being around. If you haven't already pre-ordered the book, you can head to my website, mythsbaby.com/book, and figure out where to pre-order. Or frankly, you can just search it or me at any bookstore and you should be able to order it. Thank you. I am Liv and I love this shit.